Come in and sit for a while. It feels as though the world turns faster with each passing year, and in that dizzying spin, we often find ourselves stumbling in the most fundamental of human dances, our relationships with one another. You ask how one might navigate these intricate, sometimes treacherous, and often beautiful pathways. It is a question that occupies the very center of our existence, for are we not, in our deepest essence, relational beings? It's a profound inquiry, one that a very keen-eyed American gentleman, a Mr. Napoleon Hill, explored with a focus that was at once both worldly and, perhaps without his full intention, deeply spiritual. He spoke of success, of riches, of achievement, but if one looks closely, through a different sort of lens, one sees he was truly mapping the mechanics of the human heart in its quest for connection and purpose. His principles, you see, are like a well-made ship. Some may use it to seek treasure on a desert island, while others might use the very same vessel to carry precious cargo to a starving city or to explore a new continent of the soul. The ship itself is a tool. The destination, the purpose, is what defines the voyage. So let us take his sturdy map and see if we cannot use it to navigate the vast ocean of human connection, not merely for our own gain, but for the cultivation of something far more lasting. Have you ever considered that every relationship, from the most fleeting encounter with a shopkeeper to the most intimate bond of marriage, is in fact a reflection of our own inner state? We believe we are reacting to the other person, but more often than not, we are reacting to the echoes of our own heart, our own fears, and our own unspoken desires. Mr. Hill began his grand exploration with what he called a definiteness of purpose, a simple enough idea on the surface. To succeed in any venture, you must first know precisely what you wish to achieve. But I ask you to look deeper. What is the ultimate purpose of a human relationship? Is it merely comfort, a transaction of services and affections, a bulwark against loneliness? These are understandable human wants, to be sure, like wanting shelter from the rain. But a life lived only in pursuit of shelter is a very small life indeed. Could it be that the true and definite purpose of every relationship is to provide an arena in which we can practice becoming the person we were created to be? An opportunity to practice charity, patience, forgiveness, and courage? If you approach every person you meet with this purpose held firmly in your mind that this interaction, this moment, is a chance for you to exercise virtue, the entire landscape changes. The difficult colleague is no longer just a nuisance. He becomes your sparring partner for patience. The friend who has betrayed you is not just a source of pain. She presents a stark and terrible opportunity to wrestle with the meaning of forgiveness, as we ourselves hope to be forgiven. The loved one who needs your constant care is not a burden. They are a living invitation to practice that most divine of loves, the selfless love that gives without asking for return. To have a definiteness of purpose in relationships, then, is to decide beforehand what kind of soul you wish to build. Do you wish to build a soul that is strong, compassionate, and true? Then you must decide, with unwavering clarity, to use every human interaction as a stone and mortar for that very construction. Your purpose is not to change the other person, a fool's errand if there ever was one, but to allow your interaction with them to refine you. This is the great secret. When you focus on your own moral and spiritual development as the primary goal, you will find that the relationships themselves begin to flourish in a way they never could when your goal was merely to extract some form of happiness or utility from them. It is one of life's great paradoxes. The person who seeks only his own comfort in a relationship finds it fleeting, but the one who seeks to give, to learn, to grow, finds a joy that is deep and abiding. This is not merely a path to better relationships. It is the path to a better self, which is the only truly sound foundation for any connection. And from this central, definite purpose, all else must follow. Mr. Hill spoke of the necessity of an unwavering faith. He saw it as a state of mind, a deep-seated belief in the attainment of one's goals. He understood, quite correctly, that a mind plagued by doubt and fear is like a ship with a broken rudder, tossed about by every wave of circumstance. But let us ask ourselves, faith in what, precisely? Faith in one's own ability is a fine starting point, a necessary component of courage. But is it enough? I have known many people of tremendous self-confidence whose lives were nonetheless hollow, because their faith was directed at a hollow prize. To build a lasting relationship, one must have faith not only in oneself, but in the very principles of love, truth, and forgiveness. You must hold a deep, unshakable conviction that kindness is, in the long run, stronger than cruelty, that truth, however difficult, is a better foundation than deceit, and that love has a redemptive power that can mend what seems irrevocably broken. This is a different order of faith. It is not a mere psychological trick to bolster your own spirits. It is a fundamental alignment of your soul with the way you believe the world is truly structured. It is the faith of the farmer who plants a seed in the dark earth, trusting in the unseen laws of sun and rain and life. He does not see the stalk, but he acts in accordance with his faith in its eventual coming. In relationships, this faith manifests as giving the other person the benefit of the doubt. It is choosing to believe in their better nature, even when they show you their worst. It is trusting that an act of sincere apology can, in fact, begin to heal a wound. It is holding fast to the belief that your own commitment, your own steadfastness, matters and contributes to a store of goodness in the world, even if you do not see its immediate fruit. Have you ever felt that flicker of despair in a difficult conversation, that urge to believe the worst, to assume the most selfish of motives in the other person? That is the voice of doubt, the great enemy of connection. To counter it requires not a blind optimism, but a courageous and deliberate faith, a conscious choice to believe in the power of the good. You must nurture this faith in your heart as you would a tender flame, shielding it from the winds of cynicism and disappointment. You must say to yourself, I may not see the way forward, but I have faith in the path itself. I have faith that love, honestly and courageously applied, is the right way. This faith then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you treat people as if they are capable of greatness and goodness, you invite them to live up to that expectation. You create a space in which their better angels may, indeed, dare to speak. Now, this definite purpose and this deep faith are internal states. They are the invisible architecture of the soul. But a cathedral is not built of thoughts and beliefs alone. It is built of stone, laid one upon another with tireless effort. This brings us to another of Mr. Hill's great pillars, persistence. Ah, persistence. It is a virtue less glamorous than courage and less celebrated than genius, but without it, both are utterly useless. How many brilliant beginnings have crumbled into nothing for want of this humble, steady virtue? In our relationships, we are often charmed by the novelty of a new friendship or the first blush of romantic love. All is easy. All is delightful. But relationships are not lived in the honeymoon suite. They are lived in the common, everyday rooms of life. They are forged in the fires of disagreement, tested by the slow erosion of familiarity, and challenged by the inevitable appearance of flaws, both in ourselves and in others. This is where persistence is everything. It is the choice to keep loving when you do not feel loving. It is the choice to keep forgiving when the memory of the hurt is still fresh. It is the choice to keep showing up, day after day, and tending to the garden of the relationship, even when the soil is difficult and the weather is harsh. Love, you see, the truest and highest form of love, is not primarily a feeling. It is a decision. It is a promise. It is an act of the will. The feelings will come and go, like clouds across the sky. But the decision to love, to be committed to the well-being of another, that is the bedrock. Persistence in a relationship means not giving up at the first or the 10th sign of trouble. It means saying, this is hard, I am hurt, you are hurt. But our commitment to one another, our shared purpose, is more important than this present difficulty. It is the steady, daily, often unseen work of apologizing, of listening when you would rather speak, of doing a kindness when you feel aggrieved, of choosing unity over the sterile victory of being right. Have you ever noticed how the oldest, strongest trees are those that have been battered by the most winds? Their rings tell a story of seasons of drought and seasons of plenty, of storms and of calm. So it is with our bonds. The relationships that have the deepest roots are those that have persisted through trial, that have been tested and not found wanting. So do not despair when difficulties arise. Instead, see them as an invitation to practice this dogged, beautiful virtue of persistence. Courage, dear heart, as a certain small mouse once said in a story I recall. Courage and persistence are the closest of kin. Every time you choose to persist in love, you are not just saving a relationship, you are building a muscle in your soul. And how does one find the strength for such persistence? It is hard to be a lone soldier of virtue. This is where another of Mr. Hill's observations becomes luminous with meaning. He spoke of the mastermind alliance, the principle of surrounding oneself with the counsel and cooperation of others who share a similar purpose. In his world, this was often for business or the accumulation of wealth, but I ask you to consider this in a far more profound light. We are not meant to walk this path alone. The journey of the soul is a pilgrimage, not a solitary exile. To build good, strong, lasting relationships, we need a fellowship. We need what the ancients would have called a communion of saints, though we might simply call it a circle of true friends. These are the people who share our deepest values, who understand our definite purpose. They are the ones we can turn to when our own faith wavers, when our persistence is exhausted. Think of it. When you are struggling with a relationship, do you turn to a cynic who will say, "I told you so, people are no good"? Or do you seek out a friend who, while acknowledging the pain, will gently remind you of your own stated commitment to love and forgiveness? The mastermind, in this spiritual sense, is a group of two or more souls who have agreed to encourage one another in the pursuit of virtue. They hold each other accountable, not in a spirit of judgment, but in a spirit of mutual support. They share wisdom, they offer perspective, and most importantly, they can often believe in us when we have ceased to believe in ourselves. In a marriage, the couple itself should be the primary mastermind alliance. Their shared purpose must be to help each other become the best versions of themselves, to polish each other's souls, as it were. In friendship, it is a bond where you know you can confess your failings without being condemned and share your hopes without being ridiculed. You must choose your inner circle with the utmost care. As the old proverb says, "Show me your friends, and I will show you your future." If you surround yourself with people who are transactional, gossipy, and self-absorbed, you will inevitably drift in that direction yourself. Your moral muscles will atrophy from disuse. But if you deliberately cultivate a fellowship with those who are striving, however imperfectly, for kindness, for integrity, for a deeper meaning in life, you will find your own strength multiplied. This mastermind group becomes a source of creative energy, what Mr. Hill might have called the sixth sense. In a gathering of like-minded souls, new insights emerge, solutions to intractable problems appear, and a collective wisdom is born that is greater than the sum of its parts. Do you feel alone in your struggle to live a better, more loving life? Then your task is clear. You must seek out your fellowship. They may not be obvious at first. They are often the quiet ones, the thoughtful ones, the ones who are not clamoring for attention. Seek them out. Form that alliance of souls. This is not a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate sign of wisdom. The strongest walls are built with more than one pair of hands. Of course, the building of any great edifice requires a detailed plan. Purpose gives you the why. Faith gives you the conviction. Persistence gives you the staying power. and a fellowship gives you support. But the daily work requires what we might call accurate thought. Mr. Hill emphasized the importance of separating facts from mere opinion or emotion, and in the emotionally charged world of human relationships, this is a skill of monumental importance. How often are our conflicts and misunderstandings born not of malice, but of a simple failure to see things as they truly are? We are creatures of narrative. We tell ourselves stories about why people do what they do. He didn't call because he doesn't care. She said that to deliberately hurt me. They always take me for granted. These are stories, interpretations, and they are often fueled more by our own past hurts and insecurities than by the present reality. Accurate thought is the discipline of pausing that internal storyteller. It is the practice of stepping back and asking, what are the actual facts here? What was actually said and done? Are there other possible interpretations of these facts? This is an act of intellectual humility. It requires you to admit that your first, most emotional interpretation might be wrong. It is the difference between reacting and responding. A reaction is instinctual, emotional, a product of your unexamined biases. A response is considered, thoughtful, and based on a clearer perception of reality. For instance, a friend fails to meet you as planned. The reactive mind spins a story of neglect and disrespect. The mind trained in accurate thought says, the fact is, my friend is not here. I do not know why. There could be 100 reasons, from a sudden illness to a simple human mistake. I will seek to understand before I seek to judge. Does this sound cold or unfeeling? On the contrary, it is the very foundation of compassion. Compassion is impossible without understanding, and understanding is impossible without an accurate assessment of the situation. To practice accurate thought is an act of profound love, because it honors the other person's reality. It grants them the same complexity and mixed motives that we grant ourselves. We rarely see our own actions as purely evil, do we? We see them as understandable given the circumstances. Accurate thought is the discipline of extending that same grace to others. It requires us to become good listeners, not just waiting for our turn to speak, but truly trying to see the world from behind the other person's eyes. It demands that we ask clarifying questions instead of hurling accusations. When you said that, what I heard was this. Is that what you meant? This simple tool can diffuse countless conflicts before they begin. It is a slow, deliberate, and sometimes difficult practice. It is the hard, scholarly work of love. But without it, our relationships will be built on the shifting sands of assumption and emotion, doomed to collapse with the first strong wind. Hand in hand with this clear thinking, of course, is the quality of one's own character. Mr. Hill spoke of developing a pleasing personality. I confess, the phrase itself can sound a little superficial, as if it were about wearing the right smile or learning a set of charming tricks to get what you want, and I am certain some people use it in precisely that way. But if we dig for the deeper truth, what does it truly mean to have a personality that draws others in a positive, healthy way? It is not about being a sycophant or a people-pleaser. True magnetism of character does not come from hiding your own beliefs to be agreeable. It comes from something much more genuine. It springs from a well of true humility, enthusiasm, and kindness. Humility, as I have often tried to say, is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking of yourself less. It is the quiet confidence that allows you to be genuinely interested in other people. It is the grace that allows you to celebrate their successes without envy and comfort their failures without condescension. A humble person is a joy to be around because they are not constantly jockeying for position or trying to prove their own importance. They create space for others to be themselves. Does this not sound like someone you would wish to have as a friend? Then you must strive to be such a person yourself. And enthusiasm. Not the loud, backslapping, artificial enthusiasm of a salesman, but a deep, authentic zest for life, for truth, for goodness. It is an energy that comes from having a definite purpose and a strong faith. It is the visible evidence of an inner fire. When you speak and act with a genuine enthusiasm for the values you hold dear, it is contagious. People are drawn to that warmth and light. And what of simple kindness? It is perhaps the most underrated of all virtues in our clever, cynical age. A kind word, a thoughtful gesture, the simple act of remembering someone's name or asking after their well-being, these are the small currency of love that, when spent freely, make one spiritually rich. A pleasing personality, in this deeper sense, is not a mask you put on. It is the outward glow of a rightly ordered soul, a soul oriented towards humility, driven by a quiet enthusiasm for the good, and expressed in daily acts of kindness. It is not about making people like you, but about creating an environment around you where genuine love can take root. But what happens when, despite all our best efforts or purpose, our faith, our persistence, our clear thinking, and our cultivated character things still go wrong? What happens when a friendship shatters, a partnership dissolves, or a family is torn by discord? What of failure and adversity? Mr. Hill saw adversity not as a pure tragedy, but as a seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. A challenging thought, is it not? Especially in the raw moment of pain. It feels almost insulting. But there is a profound, if difficult, truth lurking here. I have often thought that pain is God's megaphone to rouse a deaf world. Our suffering, if we allow it, can be a most potent teacher. No lesson is learned so deeply as one that is etched into our hearts by sorrow. When a relationship fails, the temptation is to either blame the other person entirely or to fall into a pit of self-recrimination. Neither is particularly fruitful. A more courageous path is to face the adversity with a question: what is this meant to teach me? Perhaps the failure reveals a hidden flaw in your own character or pride you were unaware of, a selfishness you had disguised, a fear you had not confronted. In this case, the pain of the failure is a merciful fire, burning away a dross you needed to lose. The adversity has served you by showing you a part of yourself that needs healing. It is a harsh gift, but a gift nonetheless. Perhaps the failure teaches you about your own limits, or the limits of others. It may teach you discernment, helping you to choose your companions more wisely in the future. Perhaps it teaches you compassion for others who have suffered in the same way, opening your heart in a way that unbroken happiness never could. To learn from adversity requires an immense act of faith and humility. It is to look upon the wreckage of something you held dear and believe that, somehow, good can be brought out of it. It is not to say that the evil or the pain was good in itself. That would be a monstrous lie. Betrayal is not good, cruelty is not good, but the use to which you put the experience can be. Joseph, sold into slavery by his brothers, could later say to them, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." This is the ultimate alchemy of the soul, to take the lead of suffering, and, through the painful and persistent application of wisdom and faith, transform it into the gold of spiritual growth. Do not run from the pain of your relational failures. Do not drug it with distraction or bury it with blame. Sit with it. Let it speak to you. Ask it what it has come to teach you. If you can do this, you will find that even your deepest wounds can become sources of your greatest strength and deepest compassion. The world is full of people who have been broken. The ones who become healers are those who have learned the lessons of their own brokenness. All of these principles: purpose, faith, persistence, fellowship, accurate thought, character, and learning from adversity, they all work upon a hidden canvas. Mr. Hill spoke of the subconscious mind, a vast, unseen part of ourselves where our deepest beliefs and habits reside. I would call it the heart, or the soul. It is the seat of our truest self, and all our conscious efforts are, in the end, an attempt to train and shape this deeper self. You cannot simply command your heart to love, or to be brave, or to be patient. You cannot reason it into submission. The heart, as Pascal noted, has its reasons, which reason does not know. So how do we shape this deep and mysterious part of ourselves? Not by direct assault, but by a process of steady, gentle, and persistent influence. Every time you consciously choose to act out of your definite purpose, you are sending a message to your own soul. Every time you hold fast to faith in the face of doubt, you are reinforcing a new pattern of being. Every time you persist in a difficult act of kindness, you are carving a new groove in your character. This is the great work. It is like training a wild horse. You do not do it with whips and shouts, but with patience, consistency, and a firm, gentle hand. Your conscious choices, repeated over and over, become the habits of the soul. Your deliberate thoughts, repeated and held in mind, eventually sink down and become your intuitive feelings. You are, in a very real sense, the gardener of your own heart. You must diligently pull the weeds of fear, resentment, and cynicism, and you must deliberately plant and water the seeds of love, forgiveness, and faith. Do you see the grand tapestry that begins to emerge? It begins with the high and noble decision about the purpose of your life and your relationships. This purpose, held with unwavering faith, guides your actions. You apply yourself with persistence, supported by a fellowship of like-minded souls. You discipline your mind with accurate thought. You cultivate a character of genuine humility and kindness, and you learn and grow even from your inevitable defeats. And all this steady, conscious work is slowly and surely reshaping the very core of your being, your heart, your subconscious mind, from which all your spontaneous actions and feelings will eventually flow. You begin by acting as the person you want to be, and you end by being that person. The exterior practice becomes the interior reality. We are what we believe we are, but more than that, we become what we consistently do. And now we must come to the center, the sun around which all these other principles orbit like planets. Mr. Hill's system, for all its practical genius, can be used for purposes of pure self-aggrandizement if it is not governed by one final, supreme law. That law, that principle, is love. Not love as a mere sentiment. Not the possessive, grasping love that seeks to consume its object. Not even the companionable love of friendship, wonderful as that is. But the highest love, the one I have sometimes called charity, or agape. This is the love that is a pure act of the will, a disinterested and unconditional concern for the good of the other, for their own sake, without any thought of what you might get in return. It is the love that mirrors, however faintly, the love that the Creator has for His creation. This love is the ultimate why behind your definite purpose. Your purpose is not just to become a better person, but to become a more loving person, an instrument of that divine love in the world. This love is the object of your faith. You have faith not just in your own success, but in the ultimate power of this love to heal and redeem. This love is the fuel for your persistence. You keep going, not out of stubbornness, but because love compels you to. It is the glue that binds your mastermind fellowship, for what is a true fellowship but a conspiracy of love? It is the great clarifier of your thoughts, for it is love that desires to see the other person accurately and compassionately. It is the source of a truly pleasing personality, for what is more pleasing than the warmth of genuine, selfless love? And it is the one thing that can draw redemptive meaning from adversity. You might ask, but how can I attain such a love? It seems beyond me. And you are right. On our own it is. Our own natural loves are wonderful, but they are all conditional. The love for a child, a spouse, a friend, these are great gifts, but they are often dependent on the lovability of the other, or on the good feelings they give us. Agape is different. It is a love that flows from us, not because the other person deserves it, but because we have chosen to be a conduit for it. And we find the strength to do this, I believe, only when we open ourselves up to a source of love far greater than our own. One cannot give what one does not, in some sense, possess. To become a truly loving person, one must first be filled with love. This is perhaps the final and most important step of all, the recognition of our own need, our own emptiness, and the turning to that infinite wellspring of love that lies at the heart of reality itself. When you begin to see every human being you meet not as a potential ally or a potential threat, not as a tool for your advancement or an obstacle in your path, but as a soul, precious and unique, who is, like you, on a difficult journey, then you begin to touch the edges of this love. To look upon another, with all their manifest flaws and failings, and to feel a sense of profound kinship and a desire for their ultimate good, this is the goal. All the other principles are but the methods, the schoolhouse exercises, for teaching our stubborn hearts this one, single, all-important lesson. And so, we bring it all together. How do you correctly handle every human relationship? You begin by setting a definite purpose, to use every interaction as a laboratory for your own spiritual and moral growth, to become a more virtuous and loving soul. You underpin this with an unwavering faith in the principles of goodness, truth, and love. You pursue this purpose with dogged persistence, refusing to give up in the face of difficulty. You build around you a mastermind fellowship of trusted, like-minded friends who support and encourage you in this high calling. You discipline yourself to think accurately and compassionately, separating fact from fear-driven fiction. You cultivate a character, a pleasing personality that is not a mask, but the genuine outflow of humility, enthusiasm, and kindness. You have the courage to face adversity and failure as your most profound teachers, learning from your wounds rather than being defined by them. You understand that all of this is a long, slow process of reshaping your subconscious heart, training it in the ways of grace. And you do all of this, every bit of it, in service of the one great commanding principle, love. Unconditional, self-giving, charitable love. It is a tall order. It is the work of a lifetime, and perhaps more than a lifetime. There will be countless stumbles. There will be days when your faith feels like a foolish dream, and your purpose seems impossibly distant. This is the nature of our pilgrimage. But we are not asked to succeed perfectly today. We are asked only to begin, to take the next right step, to handle the very next relationship, the one that is right in front of you now, with a little more purpose, a little more faith, a little more love than you did yesterday. If you are on a journey from London to Edinburgh, you do not get there in a single leap. You get there by placing one foot in front of the other, again and again and again, in the right direction. This framework, this map we have borrowed and reread, is not a guarantee of a life free from pain, but it is a map that points in the right direction. It leads not necessarily to a life of ease, but to a life of meaning. And I ask you, when you come to the end of your days and look back, which would you rather have had? A life of shallow comfort, or one of deep and challenging significance? The human soul, I believe, was made for the latter. The greatest thing you can do is to let the power of love, through this diligent practice, change you. And in changing you, you may find you have changed the world for at least one other person as well. And that, my friend, is a success that no worldly treasure can match. It is the beginning of building something that will truly last.